Do spiders give you the heebie-jeebies or the warm and fuzzies? Love them or hate them, with summer edging into autumn in the Northern Hemisphere, there's no avoiding them. So this week I'm making a creepy cute goth girl with a witchy spiderweb design and a little eight-legged companion. I'd say I have a complicated relationship with spiders. I'm a recovering arachnophobe, but more about that later. If you just found me, by the way, welcome. My name's Jo. I'm a full-time artist based on a narrowboat in Wales. I want this one to be a little bit spooky, so I've gone for a pale grey skin fabric with the classic black and white stripes for the legs. I'm stuffing all the pieces with some polyester fibre fill. I do want to try some different stuffing materials for my dolls. I have a couple of plant-based fibres on order that I'm keen to try, so those will be coming up in future videos, hopefully in the next few weeks. I'm jointing the limbs with some antique silver effect metal beads. The basic construction and jointing is pretty much the same on most of my art dolls. On a doll this size, it takes a couple of days' work before I can even think about adding personality or design elements that make each one unique. But getting the foundations right is so important. I know if I rush the stuffing and the jointing, then it's going to be a lot harder later on to get the doll to look how I want it to. I want to create some nice dark shading around the eyes, so I'm starting with a black coloured pencil. Then I'll blend in another dark shade, probably some purple, over the top. The pencils I use are Chromaflow from Derwent. These are really soft and have a high pigment content, so they're great for fabric. I use the Derwent blending pencil to deepen the shading and soften the edges. Then it'll need a couple of coats of fixative spray. I will put some links in the description to some of the materials I use. Before I sew the legs onto the body, I want to paint some boots. This is a lot easier to do when the legs are separate. A grey base coat of acrylic mixed with some fabric medium covers up those stripes. I heat set that with a hot hairdryer and then I can add some colour. The colour scheme for this doll is going to be purple and black for a witchy gothic vibe, so I've mixed a dark violet shade in artist's acrylic paint. I'm enjoying painting little mismatched designs on the boots lately. It allows me to have fun and let the design process flow without worrying about it being symmetrical. I started out painting a vine silhouette in black, but it wasn't really standing out enough against that purple, so I'm painting in some white highlights, which I think is working a lot better. I felt like she needed a little hidden eight-legged friend on the other boot. I'm not exactly sure what kind of spider this is. As usual, I'm using a little bit of artistic license. It's got the crescent moon shape on the abdomen though, so probably one of the false widows. There's a lot of fear-mongering about false widow spiders in the UK, but they're quite placid little things really. They're one of the spiders that I'd rather deal with. They very rarely bite, and they're not deadly or anything. You're much more likely to get stung by a wasp. I need to give those boots a coat of varnish before I attach the legs, but I'm just going to leave them to dry for a bit first while I add some line detail to the face. I was in two minds whether to add some spiderweb detail here, but in the end I decided to go with curling vines. I did decide to give her a spiderweb tattoo on her arm though, which you'll see in more detail a bit later. I'm using Derwent line maker pens for the line detail. I'm going to come back to that later when it's fully dry and add some white highlights. The mouth just needs a tiny bit of purple under the line. That'll need a coat of fixative spray, and then I'll leave it to dry while I varnish the boots. A coat of polyurethane varnish seals and protects the acrylic. It looks quite glossy as it's going on, but as this is a satin finish, it's going to be pretty much invisible once it dries. If you're enjoying watching this little one take shape, please don't forget to hit the like button and let me know. You can also subscribe if you like, so you don't miss the next one. Now back to the leafy bits to add some highlights in white acrylic. I drew a little spiderweb tattoo on the forearm earlier. I was going to leave that black, but I quite like how the white makes the detail stand out. So I'm just adding some little dots of white acrylic paint to look like glistening raindrops. Sometimes it's those tiny details that make all the difference. I've made her some bloomers from black broderie anglaise. I'm going to make a tattered lace skirt to go over those. I've kept the bodice quite plain for now, apart from a bit of lace around the top. This is going to be permanently stitched to the doll. I want to get all the clothing in place to see where the waistline and the shoulder joints need to sit. And then I'm going to paint something on the front of the bodice. I've cut some strips of lace fabric for the skirt and I'm just knotting them onto a length of ribbon. This lace has sparkly purple spiderweb designs all over it, which I think is going to look really cute. I've had this scrap piece of lace lying around for ages. I don't even remember where I bought it, so I hope there's enough here to finish the dress. That's just long enough. I'll stitch that in place, then I need to decide how I'm going to paint the dress. I don't often make sketches before I paint, but I need to visualise how this design's going to work on the shape of the bodice. So I'm just scribbling down a few ideas. I want a kind of leafy botanical design and some spider webs strung between the leaves. I'll probably just freehand it anyway, but it helps to have an idea of how the design's going to work. I must admit I love seeing those sparkling webs on the hedgerows in autumn. I was terrified of spiders when I was younger, but I've always been kind of fascinated by them too. Living on the canal the last few years, I've been a lot closer to nature, so I've had to learn to coexist with the natural world around me. Studying the different spider species and their webs a little bit more closely has helped me to overcome a lot of my fear. It's also helped me to appreciate just how incredible these little creatures are. I'm still not too fond of the house spiders that randomly run across the floor late at night though, which reminds me I must make up some peppermint oil spray. Okay, I think that just needs a little bit of light purple on the leaves, Then I'll give it a blast with a hairdryer to fix the fabric medium. I've got some bamboo roving for the hair. I think I'm going to do most of the head in black, then I'll add in a bit of violet at the front. I'm needle felting the hair a small section at a time with the Clover pen style tool and 38 gauge felting needles, being really careful around the stitches where the button eyes are anchored. I'll also need to work around the button on top of the head that's anchoring the neck joint. Bamboo is quite easy to felt with, and I like the fact that I'm able to get it in a good range of colours. I have been experimenting with a few different plant fibres recently. Rose fibre is another one that works really well for doll hair. I'll put a card up at the top of the screen if you'd like to learn more about that one. I think she just needs a little bit more of the black on top along the parting. Then I'll give it a brush and trim the ends to tidy it up a bit. This silver tone spider charm is perfect for a gothic necklace. I've named this little one Arachne Silver Web. If you like this doll, there's another witchy goth girl on screen now that I think you're going to love. Go watch that one now, and I'll see you next time. Bye!